Hey, everybody, I am Haley Gray, and this is my dear friend, Victoria Bentley. Welcome. So glad to have you here again for our Tuesday night shenanigans. So glad you're here with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. You know, Vicky is one of those really interesting people because she has had such an incredibly varied career. You've been a nurse, you've been an oncology nurse, and seen people through arguably some of the worst moments of their lives and some of the best, perhaps. And, you know, you've you became an attorney while you were a nurse and went to law school and then started your own family law practice. And again, some of those highs and some of those lows and incredible stories and building an incredible business. And ultimately ending up deciding to sell it and go into the family business. And, the accomplishments. And so, it's with that, um, you know, playing field that we start to discuss success and what success means and what success looks like to you.
Ooh. Was that a question?
Well, it's a question for our readers and it's a question for you, Vicki, too. And I'll answer it here in a bit. And Robin says, wow. And Meg says, hi. And Dee says, hi. So, hey, everybody, glad that you are here tonight.
Hi, Robin and Meg and Dee.
Hey, everybody. So, yeah, it is, success is kind of a really fascinating thing to me because people measure success in a lot of different ways. Is it your bottom line? Is it your net worth? Is it your happiness? Is it, writing books? Is it, what is success and what does it look like? What does it mean to you? And I think it's such a deeply personal thing.
And I think it's different on every day. I want to get that lamp out of the way. Don't you think?
I think it is.
Some days it's, I want to be whatever. And the other
Mm-hmm.
days, success is having a quiet evening at home with my husband. That is
So
just,
some days to me, success is I got a bath.
yeah,
Y'all
you
laugh
had enough time. Yeah.
that I actually had enough time to get in the shower or take a lengthy bath and just sit there and soak. It's kind of funny that I measure that as success some days.
Nothing wrong with that.
Mm-mm. No. And, another day gone by where my cat doesn't like jump on me because she's insisting on more treats and more attention because she's become slightly wild and crazy since the kids have all gone back to school.
She's missing them, I guess.
I guess she is. Yeah, she's we've only got one kid left at home and the other two are like gone. And it's been a very big change. And Robin says, LOL with 7 kids. Yep. Oh, exactly. Right. Um, you know, and I think what success means to one person, if you have 7 kids, I have 4. 4 doesn't compare to 7, but what success looks like on a given day or a month or a year or just in an absolute sense is going to be very different.
I think success with 7 kids is getting dinner on the table. Oh my word.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting the school clothes done, the homework done, dinner on the table. That
Yeah.
is a huge success.
Yeah. Getting
And
schoolwork done in a,
important time.
in a world where so many kids are now, doing remote learning. I like Meg's definition. Success is no longer feeling angry all the time because I no longer punch a time clock anymore. That's pretty cool. Supporting yourself with your own business that you've
Mm-hmm.
gone out and built is pretty darn amazing, especially given that you've grown your business in the middle of COVID. That's pretty impressive.
Very much so. Well, and when you have something in mind, when you know what something looks like, I want my business to be X, Y, and Z. Um, you can go out and make that happen a lot easier when you know what you're looking for.
Hmm. Yeah. How do you, hypothetically speaking, how do you decide what you're looking for?
I don't know. I think part of it is how we're wired. Like I couldn't be an engineer to save my life. So I'm certainly not looking for that. Where
No, that.
you have those credentials on many levels.
Hmm.
And
I enjoy getting some good coding time in, I'll be honest.
yeah, and that just makes me squirrely just to think of it. Oh, it just, no.
Yeah,
So
reviewing legal documents makes me just a squirrely, I think.
it can do that. It can do that. I'm hoping my husband will get that, but oh well.
We'll see if your husband
Yep, he
does
got
get
it.
it.
He got it.
Yay for husband. Yeah.
Woohoo. And he'll get it from here on out. I won't have to
Yeah.
look
So
for it.
what does success look like to you guys who are watching tonight? Let me know. Let us know. I'm really curious because, it's funny when I first started out of college, when I was 23 years old, I was working at IBM
Pretty good
and
place to work right out of school.
absolutely as a software engineer, as a programmer. Um, you know, and to me, it was about dollars and cents. How much am I making? How much am I worth? And, it became the keep up with the Joneses thing
So that
a
was
bit.
a mid-20s definition of success was
Hmm.
show me the money.
Show me the money, show me the kids, show me the car, show me the house, whatever it was, the things that came with it. And, life happened in my mid 30s.
Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Lisa. Um, my parents moved here from Alabama. They moved north. And
Via Brazil.
yeah, well, they moved to the US from Brazil in 84. And then they moved to North Carolina from Alabama in 2005 because they wanted to be closer to us so that we could help take care of them. And, suddenly I was that quintessential sandwich generation mom. I had 3 kids. I was working full time. And my parents wanted me to just stop by and help them with things. Just. Now, mind you, they were right down the street, but, every time we would stop by, it was, a 2-hour thing, and it quickly progressed to, we were paying the bills, we were doing meal prep every week, we were doing all of the stuff. And, it was really fascinating because we had the financial resources, but the focus suddenly shifted on what exactly success meant, right? Happiness and balance and surviving the craziness that was kids and taking care of my parents and then taking care of my husband's father in 2007 and giving birth to my 4th child in 2007 and the insanity that was, and really, started focusing on what does this whole thing mean. And then I got closer to my 40th birthday and got my MBA from Duke, and things shifted again. It wasn't just about education or title or money or social standing, and it really was much more about making a difference in the world. What does success look like? And I think that success changes for us at different points in our lives.
Hmm.
Going back to school while working full time was crazy enough. With 4 young kids, it just added a level of insanity. And some of you guys, I think, have heard the story, but my mom actually passed away the week before I started at Duke. And I had my mother in the ICU receiving last rites, and she was able to be an organ donor. And my dad was in the emergency room at the same time. And so the ICU nurses and the doctors actually gave me the tour of the back hallways that who knew that they existed between the ICU and the emergency room. And so I was literally like zipping between the two to manage the two of them. And my dad needed 24/7 care for the next 2 years of his life, which were the 2 years that I was getting my MBA from Duke. And, you know, the definition of success really started to change at that point. You know, it was more
Getting through the day.
getting through the day, getting a shower, getting up, exercising, actually eating. Um, Sleep was such an idea of success sometimes.
Luxury.
It seriously was, because my schedule really very much looks like I got up at 6:30 every morning, and then 2 days a week my personal trainer was at the house at 6:45, and I worked out for an hour. I was at work by 8:30. I worked until 5:30. Came home, did mom taxi duty, you know, mom the Uber driver, until about 9 o'clock. You know, we got dinner on the table, we got the kids fed, we did all the stuff. And to be fair, my husband was incredibly supportive. I had an au pair. I had all of the help in the world. My dad also had 24/7 care, but he had caregivers around the clock, a geriatric care manager, personal. I mean, he had the whole shebang. We kept an entire village employed during this phase. And, you know, it really became about, you know, 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, midnight, every night I was studying. And the first 2 terms were just sheer crazy. The second term is statistics, macroeconomics, and financial accounting, all together in one wonderful lump of crazy butt-kicking mess. And, you know, it literally became okay, I managed to get a shower today, check. That was success. You know, who would have thought being at a top tier business school, and my measure of success was I got a shower today and I actually ate 3 meals.
I can relate.
I bet you can.
I can. There are different times in my life that I was doing different things, obviously, as you had talked about. Excuse me. But I remember going off to law school and becoming aware in that first semester of law school that something was not right at home. And indeed, it was not. And my husband and my best friend were having an affair. And I was going to law school and working as a nurse and looking at things shifting at home. I left in January of that first year. And I had no support. I mean, my family said, you know, what did you do? Or what's wrong with you? And because one just didn't get divorced, which, you know, whatever. Or so
Right.
my mother said, but that's another story.
Yeah, you don't just go off and go get divorced.
Yeah.
Because that seemed like a good enough idea at the time.
It did. And interestingly enough, by the time she had died, she had filed for divorce on 4 occasions, but had withdrawn it. So I had to move, and you know, I had to leave so much behind, and it grieves me to this day for some of it. And then September 1, my mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and that was the second year. I was down to 96 pounds at this point. The third year, my father left after, I don't know how many years, 40 some years of marriage.
Delightful.
And I moved in to be the case manager. And I think I had told you that law school was $500 a credit hour. And I'm, you know, you're right, eating was a luxury. And
absolutely,
I was so stressed and so depressed in that first year that really all I could get down was Diet Coke and Marlboros and
Hmm.
occasionally some soup because I just couldn't swallow. I just couldn't get food down. I was so,
Hmm.
so stressed.
My body reacts the other way, by the way. When I get stressed, I
I
don't
think mine does
necessarily
now
eat
too. And
volumes of food, but I just gotta.
yeah, and yeah, I lost 55 pounds in 11 weeks. Just
Oof,
couldn't.
that's brutal.
Yeah, yeah,
That's like going through bariatric surgery.
yeah, maybe.
Just brutal on your body. Not easy.
So by the time the third year rolled around in the fall,
Hmm.
mom died, and I graduated 6 weeks later,
Wow.
and had I'd already paid for the bar exam, hadn't studied. I mean, it took everything I had just to get rolling, just to get moving.
Right.
But I remember, like you said, on the days that were so busy, just the luxury of having a shower or
Yeah.
getting a stretch of sleep. Because one of my jobs was I worked IV on call, and I would sleep with a beeper under my pillow, and I'd get called in the night to go out and start somebody's line again so that they could continue to get their morphine drip because they were dying. So it was really important that I did that. Um, but there was a very divine intervention in this that I'll never forget. That in my first year after everything went to hell and I was on my own, an agency called me and said, "Would you cross a picket line?" And details. Anyway, as it turns out, now this was 1992, 3, something like that.
Hmm.
Um, we'll pay you $60 an hour. You're looking at 30 years ago, $60 an hour as a nurse.
Insane.
So a 12-hour shift grossed 720 and netted 500, and a credit hour was 500.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! And God was right there. And weekend after weekend, I had work these 12-hour shifts. Occasionally, I could pick up a Friday, and day after day, I would pay off. Three shifts, and I paid off one law school class. Another 3 shifts, another law school class, and I graduated owing nothing. And
Wow. That
I
is success.
that was success exactly. And I hired people to work for me who were in debt $250,000. They had to borrow undergraduate and graduate school, and I had very accomplished lawyers in their 40s living with their parents because they couldn't pay the school loan of
And a
nearly
mortgage.
3,000 a month
Hmm.
and a mortgage. Right. And so, yeah, that was success to me. And I had a lovely friend from law school who would call every night and, okay, did you get your shower? You have your clothes laid out for tomorrow? Did you get your homework done? What did you have to eat? And it was just someone, it was kind of like a proof of life call. And it was
Hmm.
someone who cared enough to make sure I didn't fall off
A
the
cliff.
face of the earth. And it meant more to me than I could ever tell anybody, that reaching out, that gratuitous, he didn't have to do that.
No.
He had his own life, he had his own job, he had his own complications, he was married, he had all kinds of stuff going on,
Hmm.
working for his father-in-law. And shortly after we graduated, he and his wife went to a funeral and of her aunt, and she got in the car and reached over and buckled the seatbelt and broke her shoulder. And it turned out it had been metastatic breast cancer that had eaten into the bone, and she was dead in 11 months. And they had been there all that time. So the roles reversed, and I started calling Paul. How you doing? Did you eat tonight? Come on down. Come stay. And I got a call 2 years later from his sister saying, Paul had a stroke last night. He's in the ICU. He was 54 years old. He
Wow.
wasn't, wasn't 90. He was 50. No, he's 52 years old. Excuse me. He's 52 years old. And I went up. He lived a couple of hours away. And I went up and sat with him. And I held his hand and I thanked him for everything he did, for saving my life, for caring. And then he died. And it was just, wow. Success. I'm glad I got there. I can remember buying, it was this time of year,
Mhm.
September 1st, actually. Here we are. Here's the day. I told you I hate
You
this.
told me about September. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, yeah. And, I remember on the way home from up north buying chrysanthemums and pumpkins and planting the chrysanthemums, saying, oh, please, please come up every year so that I can have that attachment. And they didn't. Um, and I think about this and I think, boy, life is really precious and it's
Mhm.
short. And
Yeah.
success is a day, I think, when you can be grateful,
Mhm.
even when it's shit. I mean,
Yeah.
there is something, there's something in it. There's some
Mhm.
silver lining in it somewhere. And I think we're so much better off if we can find that silver lining and hang on to that.
Mhm.
And um, I think
Yeah.
as we age, anxiety is more prevalent. I was talking to a friend of mine, another nurse, about that. And she said, absolutely. It's, neurotransmitters in your brain. And for me, I am going to be relinquishing my title in my company um, this year in December. I'm going to be retiring from the company I own. I mean, I'm still a director and, all that stuff
All
that
that
goes.
stuff, but you're not going to be going into
But
work.
I'm not, day to day front line doing that. And it makes my palms sweat, just the thought.
Mhm.
And I sat down and did that stuff that I don't like doing, like looking at numbers and looking at budgets and looking, that all that stuff. Like,
All
can
that.
I afford to do this? Can I afford to do that? And I looked at it and I was surprised at how, for years, for all of you who are younger, and I don't know what the numbers are because when savings accounts are next to nothing, it's very hard to
Yeah.
um, save money.
Yeah.
But I put 20% of every dollar I earned into Vanguard
Mhm.
from the time I acted as if I earned 80 cents instead of a dollar.
Right.
And I did that at a young age, as young
Mhm.
as I could,
Right.
and um, that made a difference for me. And that was
Mhm.
success. And that was a discipline too, that no, you're not going to buy this now. You're going to invest later for later because you
Mhm.
don't know what tomorrow's going to bring.
Right.
And that was another piece of success. That
Yeah. We started investing when I was 19.
yeah, yeah,
I got married when I was 19. That's the other piece that you guys should know. My husband's 4 years older, and that we started investing as soon as he graduated from college.
the
Not a lot. He was
familiarity.
only making 35,000 a year, but a dollar here and a dollar there does add
That's
up.
right. The shovel theory. You just
Absolutely.
shovel it in,
Well,
and
it's the elephant, right?
yeah,
How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a
right at
time.
a time. And as you're shoveling it in, and I always called it the black hole. I just, what's in there? I don't know. I'm not looking. I'm not taking it out. It's going in. It
Yep,
is
the
an
bottomless pit.
inaccessible place, right? It's at the
Right.
bottomless pit. Just keep shoveling it in, and it gives you options. It gives you choices of success. And
Hmm.
but for me, now it's going to be figuring out what the next act is. And I'm 63, and I don't know what that looks like. So you and I are talking about it, and we're having
We're coming up
fun.
with crazy ideas.
Yeah, we're having some
You have
real.
a crazy friend in North Carolina who keeps coming up with wild hair ideas.
Yeah, yeah. and I'm having a better time than I've had in a long time. And I realized that in a couple of short months, I don't have to be anywhere.
Ooh, that's cool.
And I sat down today, and that was a really neat thing. That was a really neat thing that I can have some say over my whereabouts. Like, no, today I'm just wearing my yoga pants, and I'm just, you know what I mean. It the choices
It
are,
is really cool.
yeah, yeah. Um,
That
what
is very cool. I love it for you. And, and to me, so to some extent, that is success, right? Getting to choose what that next stage looks like. And Meg says, I have amazing beaches within an hour of me.
Oh,
You
that's
do have amazing beaches. She lives out here on the North Carolina coast.
oh, how lovely.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
You know, that North Carolina coast, it just, when I fly over it, it just sticks out. I mean, it's the
It
farthest
does.
east beaches in the United States, it looks like. I mean, I reckon it's not as far east as Maine, but you know, when you fly south, it really, really
Mhm.
juts out. And I think, yeah, no wonder y'all have hurricanes down
No
there.
wonder we keep catching the hurricanes.
Yeah, yeah. No wonder that beach erodes. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Yeah. What I mean, and to me, the last few years, since my dad passed away after I graduated, it's been a whole other journey towards success. And what does that mean? And I will say that in the last few years, success has been keeping everybody alive.
That's an interesting point. Um,
And I don't say that lightly. And sometimes people are like, oh, you're being melodramatic.
no, you're not. Not,
And I
not with your
wish
daughter.
I were. With my daughter, it's a statement of this is how our
Truth.
this is how our situation is. For me, just keeping everybody alive in the last 12 months especially has become really a thing. 24, well, since September of 2015. Just the keeping everybody
That's
alive,
five
fed, roof
years.
over your head. Do what?
That's 5 years.
It is 5 years. It's crazy to me to think that we have been going through this for 5 years. And I will say, when faced with the, life altering, accident that my daughter had, and the traumatic brain injury and the subsequent schizophrenia and all of the psychiatric issues, suddenly my perspective very much changed on what I was willing to do for my career and my business and what success means. It's interesting how, it fundamentally affects things like employability. I've been dealing with the kid playing in and out of the hospital, boomeranging in and out. We've had 18 hospitalizations in 2.5 years. And I have to say, it's really hard to hold down a job if you have to call somebody and say, hey, I can't be there today because I've got a kid in
I've
the
got a
hospital again
committee meeting at
and
a
again
hospital,
and
a
again
placement
and
meeting,
again.
a guardianship hearing, social
Right.
worker. It goes on and on and
I have
on.
a case manager hearing. I have, more calls into potential group homes. I have all of these things going on. And, to me, that success has been, making enough of an income and continuing to grow my business to where I'm expendable in my business.
Great.
And,
But I've got
maybe
to
not
say,
completely expendable, but, largely. And that if I don't have, that there are days where I don't have to be at work at all, because if I'm dealing with God only knows what, I can go deal with it.
there's a really important point here, and I'm speaking as a 63-year-old to the 20-somethings in the audience, that because of some of the choices that I made, I have choices now. That had I
Right.
not made those choices then, I would not have choices now. And
Oh,
because
absolutely.
because of the choices you have made,
Hmm.
you have not had to go punch a clock at IBM as a 50 something.
40
You
something, but
built your
still.
own business. So that gives you flexibility.
Hmm.
And that flexibility came out of a discipline that you developed to, well, I better get that MBA and I better become good at coding and I better learn marketing and I better become an expert at Google AdWords and I better
Hmm.
understand LinkedIn and, excuse me, all of those things, which are hard at the time and time consuming, have given you
Absolutely.
options to do what you're doing so that you can take care of a sick daughter.
Hmm.
That otherwise it would be, look, you gotta, I can't deal with it. I gotta be at work. I can't be at the hearing. You place her wherever you place her. And
Hmm. And that could have very well happened. I mean,
yeah,
unfortunately,
to a lot of
um,
people,
it would have,
it
because
would.
our social worker came up with placements that were completely inappropriate for her, several of them. And
I don't think
not
that's
that she
right.
was trying to be difficult. I mean, it's just that there aren't a lot of good options. So,
Yeah, but
most people
Julia,
aren't going to ask to see the care and violation histories either.
in the conversation we had, we were dealing with someone who had not read the file
Hmm.
and couldn't be bothered
Correct.
at the price of a young woman's life.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, success is keeping everybody alive for another week.
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound like, to me, it just sounds crazy coming out of my mouth. And it's like, keeping everybody alive is success. Wow. How is that even possible? And it's like, that's really true. Are you getting godified? The cat is climbing up the stairs sideways and like started to climb up David's leg in the process. And we call her La Gata.
Legato.
So he almost just got clawed up his leg.
When I was 12 years old, um, I had a suicidal parent,
Mm.
and I was the only one who was told. Here's because I was the responsible one. I was the one who was hip to things. Everybody else in the family was pretty much asleep at the wheel.
And that
And
sounds like my 19-year-old who sees everything, knows everything, and walks in at the most inopportune moments.
well, here is the lawyer's name. This is where the will is. These are the banks. Call this person. And if you tell anyone, I'll do it tonight. So, I was the official secret keeper. And, all of those things
Mm.
really shaped who I was. And um,
Yeah, I bet it did.
yeah. And you and I've talked about trauma before. And I think
Mhm.
trauma burns a hole. Oh, and by the way, the suicide never happened, but was attempted. Uh,
Mhm.
and that's for another day. But
Yeah, we've had, my oldest has attempted suicide numerous times.
yeah, well, this suicide was attempted suicide and homicide. So,
Hmm.
and I think about this and I think that stuff alters your DNA.
Hmm.
And that stuff, y- I just feel better when I go to Costco and buy extra toilet paper. Everything's better when there's extra toilet paper.
Hmm.
Everything's better
With
when
extra hand sanitizer and Pine Sol.
yes, when I don't like pine sol, don't like the way it smells. When there's,
I like the lemon.
I haven't smelled it, I don't know. But I feel better when, you know, when I smoked, why buy one carton when you can buy five? I, I don't, you know what I mean?
I do know.
Why have one case of Coke when you can have 20?
Hmm.
And so when I built,
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, my husband and I added on to our house. We built a kitchen and we built pantries, and and it's like we would just look in there and say, okay, it's all there. It's okay. It's all there.
Mhm.
And it's an illusion. Who are you kidding? Who are you kidding? If somebody's going to kill themselves, they're going to kill themselves whether there's not 20 cases of Coke in there. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do know.
And I took care of both of my dying parents. And I feel like if we go back to you get what you need. I became an oncology nurse, not by devise, but because they changed the unit I worked on into an oncology floor and said, okay, ladies, you're going to get trained in this. There were no gentlemen on the floor, but we got trained, and I liked it because I could make a difference, never dreaming
Mhm.
that I would need these tools and that it would be required to
Funny
take
how that works.
dying parents. Well, I'm just so grateful. I mean, you can say, well, that doesn't sound real. No, I'm really grateful. I got what I needed. And
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, same here. I mean, I had to deal with my dad with advanced dementia, and my mother had some dementia with her multiple sclerosis, and all of the stuff that I dealt with my mother from the time I was a teenager onward, all of the years of dealing with my mother, oh my gosh, how well that prepared me to deal with my daughter is just mind boggling. Because
needed.
dealing with parents with physical ailments, dealing with doctors who are obstinate, who don't want to listen, dealing with somebody with, you know, moderate to advanced dementia
Mhm.
is startlingly like dealing with somebody with severe psychiatric issues.
Oh, yeah.
And it
Yeah.
it's amazing to me because I was able to take every single one of those lessons that I learned from my dad and apply them to my daughter.
Got what you needed.
It was
And who would have ever thought at the time, well, gee, I'm grateful for this mess.
I'm grateful for this disaster, right?
And, eh, the perfect plan, the perfect um, gratitude. Gratitude
Mhm.
begets success. I really believe that.
Who would have thought that learning how to distract somebody with dementia and not react to it would be so applicable in so many other cases?
My dad had dementia too. And, something else that is underlying so much of what we're talking about is that we're next in line. There is no generation older than we are right
Hmm.
now. We're it in our
Yeah.
families. We're next in line, and next in line to die. If you think about it, I mean,
Hmm.
right? And
Right.
that's
Well, in theory.
and it's just life that's going to
Hmm.
happen. And I think there was my dad with his dementia, and he was such an interesting guy.
Hmm.
And he didn't understand why I had to take away his Porsches. It's like, you can't drive these cars. You're not safe to walk across the street, much less drive these incredible, V12 kind of cars. And he would say to me, but I've never had an accident in my life. And he was right. He had never had an accident. Nothing had, and he tried to get his pilot's license back. And there's some of you all might know this testing to determine your cognitive, like put the hands on the
Yeah.
clock if it's 3 o'clock and what color is this? And very simple stuff. And oh my gosh, you couldn't do any of it. You got 1 out of
Hmm.
12 or something. I don't know what it was, but and for the doctor who he respected very much as a friend to say, Bill, I can't give it to you. I can't give it to you. And he would just look and say, well, why not? I've never had an accident. I've never had a problem.
Hmm.
And his reasoning was all sound, but his thinking wasn't. And
Yeah.
it was
This
very
was
hard.
this was my dad. I mean, we have lots of stories. I mean, my dad was an avid skeet shooter and an avid hunter, and he hunted most of his life. He believed that whatever you caught and you killed, you ate. I still have Rudolph on the wall in my kitchen. And, you know, my mother used to sing to Rudolph every year for Christmas. But as he declined, he desperately wanted to go out and go skeet shooting and thought he was perfectly capable of it. Never mind, he didn't actually have balance to stand steady on his own, and he was using a walker. So the discussion went somewhere along the lines of, Dad, I'm sorry, it doesn't work very well for you to hold a shotgun and try to shoot because the recoil might knock you over. And he's like, well, maybe if I just stick the shotgun over the front of the walker, then it won't be a problem. And I'm like, not flying. And so he goes back and he thinks about it, and he's thinking about it, comes back 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, and he'd come back with another argument. Well, maybe if I do it this way. And finally he looks at me and goes, okay, you know that over under blubbity blubbity blah shotgun I have? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, you have to cock it each time before you pull the trigger, so you can't accidentally double shoot it. So if I go out and I go shooting at a target and it knocks me over, I can't accidentally hit anybody else.
The mind is a powerful thing.
It is truly a powerful thing. And the determination was absolutely hilarious. And we would go back and forth on all kinds of things. I mean, I wish I could say it was just the skeet shooting or the shotguns. He remembered going on a cruise to Cuba just before all of that went down, and being able to go skeet shooting off the bow of the ship. So he wanted to know why, when we went on a cruise, which, involved taking multiple caregivers so that he would have 24/7 care on the ship, and the full cadre and complement of caregivers with us and all of their families, because we went over Christmas, why he couldn't just shoot skeet off the bow of the ship on the Oasis of the Seas.
Yeah. Well, you can't reason somebody out of something they didn't reason themselves into.
And yet, he kept coming up with some really good ones.
And I wonder, will I become that? Will that happen to me?
It's impossible to know, right?
Yeah. And like we said, we're next in line because there aren't any ancestors, anymore.
Yeah.
Life.
No.
And I think, well, what's going to happen? And I think I have no power over this. I got to do what I've got to do today, and turn the rest over to God and say, I hope you look out.
Let go and let God.
Yeah. And be grateful. And that, yeah. So,
yeah.
Well, there goes our night again.
There we go. Time flies when we're having fun.
I know.
Yeah. What does success mean to you? I think it means different things at different points in times, but it doesn't really mean a bank balance to me anymore. That was so when I was in my 20s.
When you are talking about illnesses like your daughter, or like our parents, that wasn't going to buy them another month.
No, the only thing that the finances did in my dad's case meant that he was able to have 24/7 care for the last 2 years of his life. And we were able to do some really crazy things, like go on a cruise with 17 family members and all of his caregivers and their entire families.
Sounds like a wonderful trip.
It was. There was a thing that we used to talk about when I owned a home care agency, because I did that for 3 years as, give back in honor of my father. And, we were talking about, are you the kind of person who tells a patient with Alzheimer's that, no, you can't go out and go, out on a car ride? Or are you the person who takes them out, puts the top down and goes out for that wild, crazy, Sunday joyride just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
Which one are you?
No, I was the one who said, let's go for the ride.
Absolutely.
Let's go
Same.
do this stuff.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah.
Hence the reason that I take the dog to the chicken nugget store every day. The 15-year-old dog that we just adopted a couple of years ago. Because
Chicken
she
nugget.
likes to go to the chicken nugget store.
I think that's charming.
Because that to me right now is success. Taking the dog to the chicken nugget store. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See you next week.